Welcome to Kickin in the Kitchen, a series by the Catalyze podcast. I'm your host, Aadya Gattu from the class of 28. This series explores the how, why, and what behind the Morehead-Cain Summer Enrichment Program. Over the course of 4 years, scholars progress through outdoor leadership, civic collaboration, global perspective, and professional experience. These metamorphic summers are designed to help scholars develop leadership skills, increase self-awareness, and expand their understanding of the world. In this episode, we speak with Raina Sohur from the class of 27 about her global perspective, where scholars travel around the globe to dig into an area of personal interest. Raina interned at a law firm in Mauritius in East Africa, pursued a registered yoga teacher certification program in southern France, and traveled throughout Paris. Raina, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you so much for having me.
So just to start, how's your semester been? I know you're a junior, so kind of in the weeds of it.
In the weeds, but enjoying it.
Yeah. What's something people might be surprised to learn about you?
Something that people might be surprised to learn about me is that I am a huge introvert. I do public speaking and debate with the ethics bowl team, but I also love just being at home.
Oh, I love that. What's your favorite thing to do at home? What are your hobbies?
Ooh, I love reading.
Same.
And I love catching up with friends, for sure.
Oh, that's so sweet. I'm curious, if you can remember back to your first introduction to the Morehead-Cain programs, what was your initial response to the Global Perspective Summer? Did you have any early ideas or any fears?
Yeah, I remember being a senior in high school, and I remember since I went to high school during the pandemic, and so I was home for a lot of high school, and I got really comfortable in that environment, just going back and forth to school, sports practices, extracurriculars, but generally staying in Boston because of travel restrictions and that when I was in high school. So I remember the thought of uprooting myself from not just from Boston, but from the entire US for an entire summer. I was like, okay, I'm going to choose the maybe go to Canada or the UK, something that's going to feel familiar. But I'm just going to kind of get it over with, not get it over with, but it was something that definitely made me uncomfortable at first.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioning Boston made me realize I was so excited to dig into your travels. Can you please tell a little bit about where you're from, what you're studying?
Yeah, of course. So I'm from the suburbs of Boston. I want to stay in my lane. I don't want to suburbs of Boston.
I never say I'm from Philly.
Of course, yeah. Shout out Milton, Massachusetts. But I did go to school in the heart of Boston at a small all-girls school called Windsor.
Okay.
And that's actually one of the things that attracted me to the Morehead was it was a smaller community with all the resources of a large research university. And when I came to UNC, I was pre-med. And a lot of that was to do with the huge medical community in Boston that was amazing to take part of in high school. But I think being a part of the UNC Center for Ethics and taking philosophy courses, I realized that my interest lied more in a field where I could use speaking and reasoning in my everyday life, which is not to say that medicine doesn't do that, but I found more of a niche in the math and philosophy department. So I like to say that I am a math and philosophy major because I love spending time thinking deeply and just being in awe. And I feel that that's something that my majors really allow me to do.
I love that. I love that interdisciplinary approach. Math does not bring me awe, but I commend you on that. So you brought up a little bit about your early anxieties or what you thought. Where did you end up going in your summer?
Yeah, so the first part of my summer took me to France. I landed in Paris and then went to the south of France to do my registered yoga teacher certification. And then I went back to Paris for about 5 days. And then I was in Mauritius for the remainder of my summer.
Can you walk me through the three main aspects of your global perspective?
Yeah. So being in France, I was welcomed by family friends who are also whom we know from Mauritius or who are part of the Mauritian diaspora. And they were instrumental in helping me figure out how to work the trains to get to southern France and generally navigate the city. And then, so once I was in southern France, I completed my yoga teacher certification, which is essentially over the course of 25 days, I spent 200 hours studying.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
200 hours studying traditional yogic texts and movement. And I think something that's a big misconception is that yoga is just the movements, like the poses that you might do if you go to a yoga
more
class.
than that.
But yeah, there's so much deep cultural meaning in the traditional texts, and I found it to be a really enriching experience.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like you had a lot of balance in that, going from that to then a law firm.
Yeah.
Was that an intentional part of your summer?
Yeah, I think something that initially boggled my mind about global perspective, but made so much sense and brought so much closure by the end, was that you can have different experiences within the summer. Yeah. So I think people were asking me, well, yoga and law firm, how is that connected? Like, what story are you going to tell that's going to unify them in some way that's going to be satisfying and like start to end, bookend it essentially? And I think to me, it was, I mean, I'm sure there were a lot of aspects that connected them, but ultimately they were two separate experiences that I think satisfied different parts of my curiosity and taught me different lessons.
Can you expand a little on how you decided to work at a law firm?
Yeah, of course. So I am ultimately interested in pursuing a career in law, specifically international law. My father is actually from Mauritius, which is a small island off the east coast of Madagascar, kind of in the middle of the Indian Ocean. And so that location made sense for me, and I'm sure we're going to talk about how that experience was absolutely transformative to be in that place. But so after choosing the place, I knew that I wanted to learn more about law. And so I ended up interning at a law firm in their Supreme Court litigation department. Cool. And Mauritius is a very small island. So, I mean, we were just a walk away from the Supreme Court. And so I would shadow barristers, and I got to do a lot of legal research. And it was really fascinating to see how the legacies of the British having colonial control over Mauritius, and then after the French. So seeing how their legal system worked in that context was really interesting. Yeah.
So right now I'm in the process of planning my own GP. How did you go about choosing locations? That's a huge struggle I'm having. I'm curious how you approached deciding which locations would kind of broaden your perspective, and also how you balanced going deeper into familiar places where your family's from, versus that initial hesitation of, or should I go somewhere new?
I think initially when I was planning my GP, I had this concern that I had to go to the most novel place. I had to go somewhere I had never been and no one's ever been, and do something that was completely foreign to me. And I think that while like a lot of scholars do that and find a lot of satisfaction with that, I was coming from a place where I was like, I would love to stay in like a 200-mile radius of Boston, like be in Boston or New York and just be able to go home and be near people I know. And so I think for me, the decision to go to France and Mauritius made a lot of sense, because it was places that were more familiar to me, where I speak the language. But I got something so incredibly unique and new from them that I could never have gotten just being there with my family as I was previously. Like, I was independent and I had to make all these decisions and learn so many lessons for myself. So in terms of choosing those places, I think it was kind of it felt like meeting in the middle for my low levels of risk taking versus my high anxieties about needing to be novel and new and exciting and go to the corners of the world. So
I think that is still a big risk. I've been thinking about this too. I could never navigate India alone, even though I've been there every other year with my family.
Of course.
Totally understand how you feel on that.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious, on a similar note, did you get any outside guidance during your planning process? And how did you approach relationship building and making connections to places you hadn't previously had them?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question, especially when it involves going to like a heritage country. I think inevitably there's going to be some help that you get from people that you already know and relations that you already have. And so I think what was new to that was it wasn't just like an introduction was made through someone I already knew, and then that like from there, it was my responsibility to then cultivate that relationship to be to present myself like as Raina and not just an appendage to my family, as it usually is when we go there. So I think that like that balance of like the unfamiliar within the familiar, I think was a way that I thought about navigating my relationships. And it was ultimately really fruitful.
Yeah, I like that. The unfamiliar with the familiar.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about a memorable moment from your summer?
Oh my gosh. This story, I will tell it. I want to avoid making it more dramatic every time I tell it, but I promise this was maybe the most dramatic moment of my life. So to back up, I'm a Boston driver, learned to drive in Massachusetts, drove to school every day in the Longwood medical area. For those of you familiar, it's I consider myself a master of the craft, if you will. And so when I got my international license, I was like, oh yeah, they don't know what's coming. Like it's the other side of the road, but it like I've done this. I've been around the block. I can do this. And so I got my international license, rented a car in Mauritius so I could go from my apartment to work. And my first day, I start my commute, and I got like the Google Maps going, and I'm like, I'm on the left side, and every single moment I'm thinking, okay, you're on the left side. Like that means that a right turn is you have to cross the lane for all these. I was very nervous, don't get me wrong, but I was very like, I got this. Like it's just, it's like everything is just the converse of what you're used to. And so I'm driving, and oddly, this is just a trivia fact about this car I was renting. For some reason, it was programmed into the car that the only song it could play was My Prerogative by Britney Spears. And I couldn't turn it off. I couldn't figure out how to change it. I couldn't connect my phone.
That would make me go crazy.
No, but it became like I had just come off yoga certification. So I was thinking a lot about like mantras and how we can like still the mind. I was like, I'm going to still my mind and meditate on Britney Spears. So she's like, and it's like the part of the song where she's like, everybody's talking and all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Everyone's saying I can't drive in Mauritius, but here I am. I'm doing it. I'm driving. So I'm driving, listening to Britney Spears on the left side of the road. We're having a blast.
Yeah.
And then I missed the parking for like, I make it to the law firm, and I'm like, all those haters, like, you know what? I'm really like Britney Spears. Like I'm out here doing the thing. And then I missed the turn in for the parking. So I'm like, all right, I'll loop around. And that involves making like 4 right turns. Like I'm going to loop around the block to the right. And so that means like it's...
Yeah, I'm trying to think of...
I got you. It's like the analogous to taking a left turn in the
like
US. So you got to like cross the lanes of traffic. Yeah. And now we're approaching Mauritian rush hour. And I know like Mauritians are like famous for their hospitality, but not all that goes away during rush hour. Like you'll... like it's everyone for themselves. Yeah. But like I thought, I was like, yeah, I know I'm going to like wedge my way in there. And there are like these moped drivers. Oh my gosh. It's like you have to add a whole new calculus. So anyways, I'm making these turns, and I'm like, I don't want to be late. And so I think I'm like clear to make this right turn. And I'm like, oh, but you got to go fast. Like, and I don't want to be scared. If I don't like gun it to get into the lane, I'm never going to get into the lane. So I think I'm clear. I gun it. And then I hear that fateful sound that's just like the bonk. And I'm like, oh no, we are in the middle of like this busy road, and I have just like collided, not head on, but, and everyone was okay. Just damage to like the like bumpers of the cars. And I had like kind of collided like side by side, like my nose went like in kind of like merged into this car. And it was just, oh my goodness. People were honking at me. People were like yelling at me in Creole. I speak French, not Creole. So I was like, what is going on? I call my aunt, and I'm like, I have just like, I'm fine. Everyone's fine.
And this is day one.
This is day one, by the way. And I'm like, but I've hit a car. I send her my location on WhatsApp, and she's like, just like stay right there. Like don't. And I'm like, okay. And so then me and the car that I collided to pull into the side street. This driver is not, I stay in the car, but it's clear the other driver is not happy with me. I get out of the car. I start like calling my supervisor. I like make all these calls. Suddenly like this man appears, and I've seen him around, and I mean, my whole father's side of the family is in Mauritius, and usually in the past when I visited, it's like this slew of people, and we were introduced to them very fast, and like it's kind of overwhelming. So I kind of recognize him, but I'm kind of. I'm clearly in a state. So I'm like, hello. And then he's like, I'm your uncle. And then we do the chew kiss on the cheek thing. And then he immediately goes over to the driver and like starts speaking in Creole. And then the driver immediately like loosens up and like, and then and then suddenly like another one of my uncles like comes down from where he was working in the city. And like, it was just this, I love telling this story, not only for its like comedic effect, which in retro at the time it was not funny, but,
but now it is.
Now it is. And I think like what that showed me was that I mean, even though I'm in this new place, like I said, the familiar and the unfamiliar, I'm in this new place. Yeah. There's like this entire community, which is not something I had, like, I mean, the Mauritian diaspora is not very present in the US. And so just being like engulfed in this community and this culture, that was something I'll like never forget. And I kept on wondering like after, like, how can I like repay like my uncles for showing up? How can I like prove that like I'm grateful and that like I like, and but it was just like, no, like they're your family and they're gonna show up for you. And that was so incredibly meaningful. Yeah. On kind of a similar note, and this is a really broad question, but how did your global perspective challenge and grow you? Oh my goodness. So fun fact, I'm actually a creative writing minor, so you better believe this is like... I've been looking at that this week. Oh, would recommend. We'll talk offline. But best believe, I want y'all to bear with me because this might sound a little bit like waxing philosophical or whatnot, but I mean, it truly was such a meaningful experience. I mean, getting that yoga certification and getting that law firm experience are great, and those are the things that, I mean, you can see on my LinkedIn. Shameless plug. No, don't. But I mean, those are things that are meaningful to me and that will stay with me. But I think like being in my heritage country, in my heritage culture by myself was, I could not have asked for a better experience. I mean, it could be lonely at times. It could be like, there were so many things I had to deal with because it was like your SIM card, your apartment, like all these things required like mental load. But I think that like being surrounded by love and family in a way that was not like, it didn't feel like I was like, there's this concept that you learn about usually if you do a yoga certification that is roughly translated to like unselfing. And it's like the act of trying to like abolish your ego, which I mean, I'm nowhere near enlightenment. I want to make that clear. And the theory is that like once you abolish your ego and let go of the self, you are completely enlightened. And while like I don't foresee myself like pursuing like joining like an ashram and pursuing that as my life's work. I think like it's such an important teaching to me in like my everyday life, and how that manifested in Mauritius was that, I mean, I was seen as a part of like my family. And I mean, people knew me as Raina, but I kept on waiting for them to know like certain things about like what I was studying and like all these like intricacies, that like little quirks, you know, but instead of being like Raina as I am to my friends in the US, you know, I'm a runner. I'm like kind of like, I have a sense of humor, and those are distinct things about me. But in Mauritius, I just felt like I was just engulfed in this love and this community that was completely separate and completely independent of like all these little like micro qualities that I had thought were so important to myself. So it's like a coming of age movie. Of course. Yeah. And then I'm loving this like really interpersonal development you had throughout the summer, but on a more professional note, can you talk about any career clarifications or developments you had out of the summer? Of course. Yes. I mean, Mauritius, if we had another hour, I would talk to y'all about like the political and economic state of Mauritius. And I mean, it's in such a unique position because it's an island in the middle of the Indian Ocean. So it has unique access to Africa. It has unique access to India and China. And so, and being at the nexus of that all in Port Louis, the capital of Mauritius, I think really motivated me to pursue a career where I could make a difference in that impact. Because I think in the US, I mean, at the risk of exposing myself, when I got there, I'm like, yeah, I'm American. Like, they're gonna like, and they're like, America is not, I mean, they watch American movies and whatnot, but ultimately their world isn't like that unselfing of like, I thought like being American and like America was so important to everyone in the world. That is absolutely not the case. And I think like that shedding of the ego and that shedding of the like American arrogance was so important. So I hope to now work at the nexus of law and international relations. I think that's a huge thing scholars get out of the summer, is just a grounding of themselves. So in closing, and you've touched on a lot of really beautiful lessons, what was the greatest lesson you learned from your global perspective summer that you think you'll carry throughout your entire life? I think that the world is so large. And I think that is at once frightening, but also inspiring. I mean, I never thought I would study abroad, and I'm going abroad next semester.
Oh, awesome.
And so it's all these things that, like, I mean, I'm just at a loss for words for like this is why I'm a math and philosophy major. I love thinking about infinity and largeness. But I mean, in the sense of the world, like being so small, but being able to like make a difference and like work on the world and not just yourself. I think that was the biggest lesson I took away.
Yeah. You're making me so excited for my summer.
Oh, look forward to it. It's amazing.
Well, thank you for listening to Kickin' It in the Kitchen, a series by the Catalyze podcast. I'm your host, Aadya Gattu from the class of 28, and that was Raina Sohur from the class of 27. You can learn more about the Morehead-Cain Summer Enrichment Program on our website at moreheadcain.org. This episode was recorded on video at the Morehead-Cain Foundation at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. You can watch all our Kickin' It in the Kitchen videos on our YouTube channel at Morehead-Cain, and if you prefer to listen, you can find Catalyze wherever you get your podcasts. You can let us know what you thought of this episode by emailing us at communications@moreheadcain.org or by finding us on social media at Morehead-Cain. Thank you for listening.